Hello and welcome to a special improv episode of Codename New 202. Hi, I'm your presenter, Shabu. Are you? Well, I'm currently working on some upcoming videos for the channel after a layoff due to a very bad elbow injury. I'm still going through taking steroids and I might have to go for an MRI. I don't know if it's an old football injury or so on and so forth, but this shit hurts. So anyway, I've taken a little bit of a reprieve from making videos. But while I'm working on these videos, and my regulars can attest to this, it's not just Gen X era comics, video games, and action figures. Music is a big part of our growing up. And during the pandemic, we did a rare unboxing of a 1995 Sony Walkman and how it still holds up today. But here's the thing. When you listen, today's kids are so in tune to streaming services that they do not realize the quality of the music that they're listening to. See, back in the 80s, 90s, and the early 2000s, it was kind of a big push to get the best sound, best quality. But for some reason, you don't hear that advertised because manufacturers know that the streaming, whether it's Pandora, iHeart, Spotify, are not on par with yesterday's media. Now, while the cassette is analog, it's still on par with the streaming services. You know, you put in a nice, very good cassette tape, and you have all the right variables, like a good headset and a nice clean Walkman, you're pretty close to what streaming services are able to offer. But by far, the best media or medium, whatever, for music is still the CD and the mini disc. And I'm a big fan of mini discs, even though it was not popular here in the US, but in Asia, it was all the rage, especially Japan. So today in this improv episode, I'm just cleaning up some stuff. So I thought it'd be fun just to go through some of my cassettes and CDs that I still have and reflect back on a simpler times where we could just plug in and tune out, lie in bed, and that was a good Friday night. So without further ado, let's clean up this fucking mess. Alrighty, so we're going to begin going through some of the albums, and for me to reorganize / clean up this mess before I get yelled at. I apologize for not being professional, but this is real life, folks. When you come back from work and you get into your hobbies, you just make a fucking mess. So I need to clean up some stuff, but it's a good thing for you guys because we'll go through some iconic albums that you may have had growing up and how cool it is to actually own the physical media versus some bullshit streaming services. So I'll talk a little bit about it. You guys could reminisce. Let's get started. So the first cassette is going to be Ozzy Osbourne, Bark at the Moon. And boy, this was huge. Number one, this is the first album post Randy Rhoads' tragic passing away. So the fan base, the general public was actually concerned if Jakey Lee could kind of fill the mantle of Randy Rhoads. Not only do that, but have Ozzy continued on his resurrection projection or his trajectory where he was going. Because you got to remember, Ozzy's first album was like a surprise if he could do it without Black Sabbath, and he sure as hell did. And that was mainly because of Randy Rhoads. So after he passed away, everybody was wondering if that momentum would die with him. Now, the sad part is that Jakey Lee is kind of the forgotten guitar player in Ozzy's band as the years have gone. I mean, except for guitarists, but you have Randy Rhoads, and I mean, he's sandwiching between two icons, Zakk Wylde and Randy Rhoads, and then Jakey Lee doesn't get the credit that he should rightfully deserve, and his playing in this album is fucking phenomenal. So let's go through. I don't know if there's. Oh, that's it. What's interesting is there was a few releases of this And I think there's something about this with the recording. Now this is the 1983 cassette, believe it or not. So they did reissue it, and then minus, I think, certain tributes or stuff. But there was some controversy regarding this. But this is the actual fucking 1983 cassette. So that's, and it plays great. So that's cassette number one. We'll kind of put that here. The next cassette, oh boy, Eliminator, ZZ Top. They're coming to our area soon, and still trying to see if I could get tickets. I mean, the tickets are up there, but oh man, what a great album. Give Me All Your Lovin', Legs, Sharp Dressed Man, Under Pressure. Jesus Christ. This is basically like a third of the greatest hits album. So, yeah. Look at that. Someone wrote 2/20/86. That's fucking cool. This cassette is another 1983 issued cassette. So this is, and it still plays great. It still plays great. What a different era music was. I'm kind of sad that Curse Must Be Left exposed directly. So yeah, that was a big thing. You weren't supposed to leave your cassettes, even though people did. They leave them in the car. It's a big no-no because sunlight and these analog tapes, that was the killer right there. But if everything is right, the sound quality is really good. And you know what? I never jumped on the vinyl resurgence. I just thought that, yeah, well, it's nice to have physical media and stuff, but this vinyl wasn't big at the end of the 80s and the 90s so much as cassettes and CDs. So I know with my uncle's generation, who was 9 years older than me, yeah, his records were his life, but he transitioned to cassettes and then eventually CDs. But I never was like, I just felt like, why jump on that trend? And like, I just hate following trends and being a bandwagon jumper. So I stuck with what I know, what was in my wheelhouse, and that was cassettes and CDs. And to this day, I'll stick with that. I'm not a big record guy, so there goes that. Next album. Now we're going into the junior high school years for me. Pearl Jam 10. Wow. Again, this one album is like a third of the, even though they're the only grunge or Seattle band that's still in existence today, going strong. This is like another 1/3 of their greatest hits album. It's just a wonderful, wonderful design. Again, after the death of their previous band, Mother Love Bone, I think his name was Andrew, I forget, but he died. But this is what you love. This is the stuff right here. All the little words and scribbling, and then you read the text. What went into making this album, who's in it, special guests. I mean, I didn't even know that. Jeff Ament and Stone Gossard wrote so much stuff. Everyone thinks that Eddie was Eddie, but really, those guys did a lot of the heavy lifting. I mean, Eddie just was the front man. But I like the lyrics, like, how they wrote it out and everything. This stuff is fucking awesome. 1991. One of the top 5 best years of music. I think 77, 84, 91. I mean, so many great albums that came out during that span. It's fucking amazing. So that is Pearl Jam 10 on cassette. I don't want to do too much because it's like shooting your wad in one shot, So we'll probably break this down to parts. All right, the next cassette Oh yeah, oh yeah, you can't go wrong with this. Another, I think this is 89. All right, I had to get this, dude. MC Hammer, please Hammer, don't hurt him. Too legit to quit. That's right. I think too legit to quit on here. Here comes a hammer. You can't touch this. Have you seen her, yo? Sweetness. Help the children on your face. I don't know. Dancing machine. Pray. Yep. So I think Too Legit was on the second album. But anyway, please Hammer, don't hurt him. Wow, what a phenomenon. Look at those baggy pants. That's the shiz. You got special thanks. Who hurt? Wow. It's just cool reading this stuff. You got his autograph there. There you go. If you want to copy MC Hammer's signature. Hammer was huge for that 2 years. And then he linked up with Deion Sanders and the Atlanta Falcons. I think Deion should bring fucking MC Hammer back in Colorado. What do you guys think? Look at that. I always loved these clear cassettes. 1990 Capitol Records. The music industry was a different monster than what it is today. Wow, that's a good album. All right, of course. I have to do this. This is the album that started everything. Just like how I say Star Wars was the genesis for Gen X as far as comics, toys, video games, what have you. Black Sabbath is that for metal, hard rock music. It is absolutely epic. And it's one of my go-tos, and I love this cassette. Wow. Look at these, listen to these albums on the side. This is side A. Black Sabbath, The Wizard, Behind the Wall of Sleep, NIB. Then side B, Evil Woman, Sleeping Village, Warning. Wow. And the funny thing is, like, they recorded this in like a day. And because they only had money to record. And it was like during this time that Tony Iommi, they were practicing across from a movie theater. And it was Tony Iommi who said, "Isn't it peculiar that people pay to see scary movies? Why don't we write scary music?" That right there is the genesis for everything that followed. Now, I didn't expect much reading material because those guys were probably too shit-faced to do anything, but it's just the basic. This is it. But this lady, they did an interview with her, and she was just a normal model. She got hired for a gig, did this. Little did she know that this, and she didn't even make a lot for this. I think it was like, less than $100 equivalent, because they British pounds. But it was just a paying gig for her. She just showed up. The guy took a couple pictures, and this one was selected. But man, that image just conjure up so much stuff. Isn't that amazing? This is what you don't get in streaming services, kids. So that's Black Sabbath, number one. All right, so number two, I have no idea, but yes, I do, because it is a good album. Bryan Adams, So Far So Good. Canadian, behind Rush, I think Bryan Adams is up there as a Canadian icon. Look at this. I know you would have a lot of stuff because he was at a crossroads, and I think it was that movie with Kevin Costner, Robin Hood, that kind of catapulted him into the American. But Summer of '69, wow, what a great song that is. I graduated in 96. So, Straight from the Heart, It's Only Love, We Started. That's another great song. The words this time, Run to You. Wow. What a great song Run to You is. That is a great freaking song. Don't sleep on Bryan Adams, man. Look at that. Send money over so far to Vancouver, Canada. That's where his fan club was. There's a lyric book. If you want it, you could order it. I like this shit, dude. This is so cool. And even though like I'll look through it now, like a night like this, I'll go through this stuff again and just like, be able to touch it. It just like, and your mind goes back to 1996 for me, sitting in my friend's car listening to Summer of '69. That's what that brings up in our graduating year. We just thought it was funny that we were in class of 96. All right, next one. I bought this Aerosmith's Greatest Hits. I'm not a big Aerosmith fan. I always thought that, yes, there's a few great songs here. Great songs. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to get hate. Dream On, of course. Sweet Emotion. Walk This Way. Previously released material. What's on the back? Back in the Saddle. Draw the Line. Kings and Queens Come Together. That's iconic. Remember. Wow. 1973, 1974, 75, 76, 77, 79, 80. So basically like the middle to end of the 70s and early 80s was like, then Joe Perry left, and then there was just so much like going on within that band, and it was just sad to see. And then they kind of got a reemergence in the 90s because Liv Tyler and I think Armageddon, the movie Armageddon, kind of brought Aerosmith back into the mainstream things. And then, of course, Steven Tyler was a judge on fucking American Idol. So much stuff, man. This is definitely a good album to get. I'm not trying to be negative on Aerosmith. They deserve all their accolades. And they're one of the, like, you hear James Hetfield from Metallica talk about so much stuff. I think we're just going to do cassettes in this video. All right, so the next GNR, Use Your Illusions 1. Wow. Again, 1991, I guarantee. Like I said, Metallica's Black Album. You had Soundgarden's Bad Motorfinger. You had Nirvana's Nevermind. Of course, Pearl Jam's 10. I mean, so many fucking phenomenal albums. Look this up, dude. Seriously. 1991 is probably, I think it's one of the top, if not the top, year of music that the human race has ever fucking seen. So many good albums, so many good artists, and none of this computer stuff. Like, these were musicians playing art. That's what you love. So we have November Rain, The Garden, Garden of Eden, Don't Damn Me, Bad Apples, Dead Horse, Coma, woo. Right Next Door to Hell, Dust and Bones, Live and Let Die, Don't Cry, Perfect Crime, You Ain't the First, Bad Obsession, Back Off Bitch, Double Talkin' Jive. Ooh, one of the most dangerous bands to have ever existed. And Geffen, we all know. And I'm glad the funny thing is that out of the top 5 touring acts in the last 5 years, I think except for, of course, Taylor freaking Swift, all of them are rock essentially. So, these kids have all the technology to go with the artist aspect of playing actually playing instruments versus doing it on a computer. There's so many like pedals and effects that they could use and to create music that people in the 70s, 80s, and 90s did not have. So, you know, I just wish that they would kind of use computers as an aid, not the paintbrush, so to speak. So, one of the inks versus the actual paintbrush, because the paintbrush should be a real instrument. But look at this album. You talk about goodies, goodies, goodies. Look at that. This is what I am fucking talking about. All the lyrics. Yes, you could go online and type it, but I'm holding them. This is what matters right here. Holding that piece of paper, looking at the pictures, flipping it over, smelling the paper. As cheesy as it sounds, this is what makes you feel fucking alive. And this is what makes music memorable and mean more. Anybody could fucking download a song, or what have you. And then it's just another song. That's why all of today's music is forgettable. The stuff that they played in 2022, does anybody really listen to that? No, because they're listening to 2024. So what have you done for me lately? Anyway, so that's that. We're going to stick with that same thinking and go with Motley Crue, Decade of Decadence, 81, 91. Wow. Now, you thought this was the most dangerous band? Well, Motley Crue said, hold my beer, literally. Oh my gosh. I mean, I have this in my Walkman right now, so I'm kind of listening to it as I was working. Side A, Live Wire, Piece of Your Action, Shout at the Devil, Looks That Kill, Home Sweet Home, Smoking in the Boys' Room, Girls, 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 Wild Side, all freaking great. Side B, Dr. Feelgood, Kickstart My Heart, Teaser, Rock and Roll Junkie, Primal Scream, Angela, Anarchy in the UK. So that's like maybe all of except for one. That, I mean, Anarchy in the UK is okay too, but I mean, these are all of these. It's like a greatest hits album without being a greatest hits album. Shit, this is fucking. Look at this cover too. That's fucking awesome. Does that not feel like Motley Crue or what? Great, great stuff. Oh yeah. Let's go Scorpions. Love at First Sting. What a great fucking album. Rock You Like a Hurricane. Of course, that's played every Miami Hurricanes. I'm Leaving You. Another great song. Coming Home. The Same Thrill. Side 2, Big City Nights. Awesome song. As Soon as the Good Times Roll. Okay. Crossfire. Okay. Still Loving You. Fucking awesome. Awesome. What a great album. I think there was controversy with this too, because in the UK versions, I think they showed you her thingy. The American version, they kind of had to cut that out or something like that. Just basically a thank you. Who worked on it? Rudolph Schenker, and then his brother. That's the other thing with the Schenker brothers. I don't know why Michael Schenker, like, it just seems like he never gives his brother Rudolph the credit he deserves. It's like he's bitter about it. Like, I'm the younger brother, but I am better. And like, dude, you're both phenomenal guitar players. That's okay. That's awesome. You know how many people would kill to have a family with two amazing guitar players in that same roof? You should embrace it and stop this like, I'm better than my brother. I taught Rudolph Schenker. Michael Schenker, I don't know. I love him. Great guitar player. But it's like he constantly has to put down his older brother and make himself like, dude, let it go, Michael. You're both great. Your work in UFO is phenomenal. Your solo stuff is amazing. Your brother is good too. And that's a good problem to have. He needs to get over that shit. Because, you know, you only have one life and amount of time to be bitter over your brother. That's terrible. Anyway, great album. Even though I don't have the cover, or I lost it, this is Nirvana Nevermind. Again, 1991, but such a great, great, iconic, legendary album. And another one in the same mold, and I don't care, this one album, I'd be hard pressed. Tell me anyone that's not into rap, hip hop, R&B, metal, anything. They will still point to say this is a fucking great album. That's none other than Michael Jackson's Thriller. I mean, the guitar playing, the bass, it's like a musician's album at the same time of being a pop album, which is what it is. This is such a good album that, like, you could see even like some metal guys like a Zakk Wylde be like, yeah, this is fucking dope. Because of Eddie Van Halen, right? Eddie Van Halen guest played on a few tracks, didn't want any credit. I mean, you got Paul McCartney on here as well. But the bass and drums on this is absolutely 5-star. And that's what got me into playing bass is Thriller, Motown, and of course Geezer Butler. Like, it's all of that stuff combined. And that this is, I think, Dark Side of the Moon and this one are two all-time #1 best albums. You'd be hard pressed to say otherwise. We got a few more, then we'll wrap this up. Black Sabbath, Mob Rules. It's funny because what I just said about Ozzy going solo is what this album was when Dio joined. It was like, can Dio carry on that mantle? And it starts off with right off the bat, turning up the night, the sign of a Southern Cross, fucking Mob Rules, country girl slipping away, falling off the edge of the world, fuck, over and over. Neon Nights was in this. I think that was in the other album. But this is freaking a master. This is probably, again, this is debatable, but you'd be hard pressed to argue otherwise. This is the best Black Sabbath album. Paranoid is amazing, but this one, it might be the best Black Sabbath. You heard that correctly. Produced by Martin Birch. Black Sabbath is Minneapolis. Geezer Butler. Vinny did a good job. I mean, there was reports that Bill Ward was just too fucked up. He stepped in and had to carry. He stepped in mid-tour, the last tour, to be on this album. And he essentially had to record the drum parts because, you know, Bill Ward was just too fucked up, you know. But it's sad, but at the same time, Vinny is another guy who doesn't get enough credit as a metal drummer. Vinny is phenomenal. All right, so just really quick, I'll just do these. Of course, Frampton Comes Alive. I mean, this is definitely something 70s, 1976. I wasn't born yet. I came a year or so later. But this was the rage. I remember when I was able to play the bass parts of If You Can Feel. Baby, I love your way. I want to go. Something's happening. Doobie Wah, show me the way. Yeah, so like I started learning the bass parts to this, and to impress my uncle, I would play along with, Frampton, of course, was playing the guitar on the stereo, but I was playing the bass parts, and my uncle was like, "Man, you're pretty good." I mean, they were really simple chords and stuff. It wasn't that but it was my first major milestone is to be able to play the bass lines in Frampton Comes Alive. So that's what I hear. But this album's pretty simple. Whoop. Again, pretty basic, but all the important stuff on it. So this is definitely pretty cool. Yeah, Stanley Sheldon was the bass player. And again, he's another guy that doesn't get enough credit for his contributions on bass. I mean, without him holding down, I don't think Peter Frampton could do what he did. The best, the very best of Cream. Wow. I mean, this band, phenomenal. 1983. Sunshine of Your Love, Crossroads, White Room, Born Under a Bad Sign, Strange Brew, Anyone for Tennis, I Feel Free, Politician, Spoonful. I mean, fuck. I mean, so much good stuff here. It's amazing. This is another basic one. Nothing much there. Well, anyway, I got a couple more cassettes in a different room, but we'll save that for another episode. But we'll do that for today. We took a half an hour. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this trip down memory lane. And yes, kids, music back then was better than what you were listening to. CDs, cassettes were a lot better than what you guys are using your Bluetooth for. You should listen to your elders and pick up some old media. This is Shabu RU, signing off.